look, I'm all up for a robust conversation about China, calling them out on their BS, exposing their different tactics. But I think we're getting a bit silly when we are starting to talk about the prospect of a hot war with China. Now, the poodle Christopher Pine said it to get attention a few weeks ago. Who cares? He's got a podcast, apparently. But when the boss of Home Affairs, who might be moving over to the defence portfolio, said this today, this was a little weird for me, all right? Now, this was, by the way, an opinion piece that he wrote, okay? No sort of accidentals here. But, he basically said that by our resolve, our strength, our preparedness, by arms or by statecraft, let us set about reducing the likelihood of war, but not at the cost of our precious liberty. Now, he goes on to talk about how basically, look, all options have to be on the table, including potentially something getting out of hand when it comes to Taiwan. Here's the Prime Minister asked about this concept today.
Our objective is to pursue peace. That's what we're doing. We're pursuing peace for a free and open Indo-Pacific. But it's also at the same time designed to ensure that Australia's national interests are always advanced.
Now, Michael, I admire the plums of the government to take on China, but tap the brakes. We're not having a war with China. Stop it.
We're not having a war with China. And you remember Reagan years ago said peace through strength. That was his mantra in relation to foreign policy, and it's right today. I mean, I don't think China's going to try and have a military assault on Taiwan. I don't think they're going to have a military assault on North Korea or anywhere, because the consequence of that would be world war. And as appalling as the Chinese government is, I think they know the limits of their hegemony in Asia and elsewhere, which is why they've got an alternative strategy, which is to pay or grant billions of dollars to over 100 countries through the Belt and Road Initiative. They're buying their way in through the Chinese currency rather than the gun. And I'll tell you, it's going well so far. I mean, it hasn't gone so well here in Victoria recently, thanks to Marise Payne. Thank you to her and the government. But generally speaking, their policy of buying their way into all these countries, buying votes at the United Nations, et cetera, is working a treat.
Yeah, I mean, look even at all those. Remember when a couple of weeks ago Papua New Guinea was the thing that we talked about, right? And suddenly it's now fixed, right?
Yeah.
It's still going on. China's got their vaccine in there. Sure, it's a faulty vaccine.
Well, they're in the universities here. The Confucius Centres are all around the world.
Correct.
I mean, they're doing that. They've learned from the past, and they know that. Buying your way in as they're doing is an immensely more successful strategy than a military one.
Well, I mean, look, again, Mark, you've talked a lot about how sort of sometimes people get a little bit too hot under the collar here. Literally, people writing in opinion pieces who are inside the national security apparatus of the country, get ready for a hot war. That's like rubbish. Stop. What do you reckon?
Well, Paul, who elected Mike Pizzullo to declare that Australia is likely to be going to war with China? One of the things we fight for in this debate is our democratic rights and our democratic process. This guy is a public servant, and only on a supreme issue of national security and national future like this should our elected government, our elected ministers speak this way. I just find it extraordinary. But Pizzullo, I knew him when I was in Canberra. I haven't got a positive rap on the guy. But anyway, I don't care who he is inside the public service. What right has he got to speak this way as an official who serves ministers? Only the Prime Minister and ministers should talk about this. In the substance of it, what Scott Morrison had to say is the right approach. We need to chart a middle course. Yes, China has done the wrong thing in many areas, and the relationship will never again be close, not likely in our lifetimes. And we have to unravel areas of over-reliance on China, such as issues like Belt and Road. That's been done. Port of Darwin, the over-reliance on Chinese foreign income in the university system is another big one. So let's unravel those areas of over-reliance without being hostile, provocative and over the top. And, quite sadly in our national history, you look at Vietnam, you look at Iraq, there are characters like Pizzullo in the past who've talked us into these conflicts. You can talk yourself in for no real purpose. And I just think what he's done today is appalling. If I was the Minister for Defence or whoever's now doing Home Affairs, I'd sack the bloke. I'd sack the bloke for speaking out of turn in a way that can only diminish Australia's national interest and looks like something that comes out of the Chinese Foreign Office. Don't we get these obscure public servants in China from some bloke we've never heard of from the Foreign Office who has a lash at us? That's what Pizzullo looks like today. We're mimicking the Chinese. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, Chris, look, I don't disagree. We're going to talk to Senator James Paterson, who'll join us on this very topic in a couple of seconds. But Chris, it did seem totally unnecessary and a little bit sort of in front of his skis.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Mark's right. We're all concerned about China's wolf warrior diplomacy. Well, this is kind of Australia hitting back at the same tone. I read it as a job application from Mike Pizzullo to head defence to follow his minister Peter Dutton across to defence, and it may have misfired because it goes too far. It definitely goes too far. I think the message here from Australia and the message for the region is to remind people that there's one key factor that's helped deliver the security, stability that's underpinned the incredible rise in prosperity across the whole of East Asia, including in China. And that factor has been the security delivered by an enormous and reliable American military presence in South Korea, in Japan, in the Philippines, through its alliance with Australia. And we need to continue that. It's that American military stability that has enabled East Asia to rapidly increase its economic well-being, and that includes China. And we need that to remain in place and always be the case. And that's as far as we should go. We don't want to be talking about war. Talk about war tends to be self-fulfilling.
Yeah, James Paterson, of course, Senator with the government here in Victoria, and I just wanted to check in with him. How did you feel about Mike Pizzullo's comments today? As a person who is openly critical of China, as all of us are, it seemed a little too much. Do you think that we need to step back from any use of the W word?
Well, ultimately, public policy is set by elected politicians, not public servants. It's their job to implement the democratic will of the democratic elected people. On the issue more broadly, as we've discussed before, we could pretend that our region is not changing. We could pretend that we don't have a rising authoritarian power trying to change the region, and we could close our eyes and not prepare for it, nor be honest with the Australian people about it. But if we did so, we'd be doing them a great disservice. We have to deal with the world as it is rather than as we would like it to be, and we have to be very clear-eyed about that. And of course we strive for peace and we always want peace, but history shows that peace is often best achieved when there is a credible deterrent to war. And many grave errors in history have occurred, many horrible wars have occurred because that deterrent hasn't been credible or the intent has not been credible. So the things that we need to do on the policy front is invest, as we are, 2% of GDP to boost our defence, to make our modern defence force the most effective it can be, and be very clear about what our intent is, and that is to defend our values and our interests in our region and in the world.
Why has the language changed in the past couple of days? What's changed? Because we know all of the fundamentals about the flaws in China. We know all of the fundamentals in how they exercise power in 2021 as opposed to even the year 2000. Why are we getting this type of tough though, James? This is what I don't understand, is that, you know, I'm all up for calling them out, but I'm not up for standing in front of the tank that's going to run over us.
The conversation's been changing for some time, Paul, because of changing events, and particularly the encroachment on Taiwan's airspace by the People's Liberation Army, and particularly by the Air Force. Daily, we are hearing reports of very serious repeated incursions into Taiwan's airspace, and the rhetoric from the Chinese Communist Party towards Taiwan is becoming increasingly militaristic and increasingly clear. It may be that they're trying to test new US administration and try and understand what their resolve is. And I think it's very important that the Biden administration and its allies demonstrate that their resolve is clear, that it has not changed. And just because there's been a change of administration, there won't be a change of policy towards this issue.
All right, good man. Thank you, James. We'll talk to you again very soon.